It's a great pleasure to be able to present to Jason, a true champion of Jewish values, the award tonight. And you know, as the rabbi said, that Jason has President Trump's great confidence because he's been with him for over a decade working together. And now, on the eve of, throughout the negotiations between the Palestinians and Israel, Jason's been the center part of it. So you know about that, but you might not know that Jason is the son of Max, who lives long, and Vera, who her yard site was just recently, Hungarians, who survived the Holocaust as children. And then they came to this country in 1956 from Hungary, as so many Jews have, to escape tyranny and forge a better life. Jason is a graduate of Yeshiva University, and Naomi is a psychiatrist. And not only do they have, blessed with many children, 6, Kanai Nahora, but Avery is about to put on tefillin tomorrow morning. Tefillin schedule around the negotiation schedule, but it's a great bracha that they all came tonight. And as the rabbi mentioned, Jason really is grounded with the soft-spoken humility. That's one of the things that most struck me about Jason, is humility. The Talmud in Sanhedrin quotes Rava, saying that leadership in determining Jewish law comes only from the tribe of Levi and Yisachar. But the Talmud asks, how was King David able to enact Jewish law when King David was not from those tribes, he's from Yehuda? The Sefer Eion Yaakov answers that King David was very humble. That's why God gave King David the ability to make Jewish law. Furthermore, at the end of Tractate Sota, the Gemara says that humility leads to clarity of thought, which leads to understanding. Now, it's hard to believe, but the Washington establishment lacked clarity of thought, and they ignored or didn't believe that the Palestinian Authority has laws to kill Israelis and a budget of $350 million per year to pay terrorists. Jason became an invaluable ally in a just cause to end the pay-to-slay rewards given by the Palestinian Authority to terrorists and their families for maiming and murdering Israelis and others. In March of 2016, a Palestinian terrorist knifed to death Taylor Force. Now, Taylor Force is not just a name. Taylor Force was captain of the West Point ski team, served tours of duty in Iraq and Afghanistan. I never met Taylor, but his parents are amazing. His sister Kristen and Robbie and Stuart were honored last year here by the rabbi at the World Values Network. Alicia gave them the award. They're very, very special people. And sometimes when you just hear the name, it's absorbed into like one of many names. But to meet the family and see how special this family is, it shows you what a special fellow Captain Taylor Force was. But here is the dirty secret behind the killing of Taylor. The United States, as well as the European world, was providing hundreds of millions of dollars in aid each year to the Palestinian Authority. And the PA was taking a large chunk of that money, $350 million, to incentivize the terrorists and to support their families. Now, the Palestinian Authority claimed that these were welfare payments. But in what world is welfare defined as paying murderers? If the Palestinian Authority had a policy that anyone who's murdered, who's an American, will be paid, will get a monthly stipend, through a bureaucracy of 550 full-time employees, would anyone call these welfare payments? These are murder payments, plain and simple. And amazingly, few people in and out of government knew that American taxpayers were inadvertently underwriting Palestinian Authority's official, institutionalized program of subsidies for slaughter, enshrined in law. But even more outrageous, the State Department knew that the American taxpayer money was being funneled to the pay-to-slay program. but the attitude was to look the other way, so as to not upset the delicacy of negotiating with the Palestinian Authority. Now, I met Jason at a Shabbos lunch at the Trump inauguration, and I didn't know him, but I told him of this Shonda. Now, many people in power don't listen to the regular guy, but Jason listened. And what he did is the reason why he's receiving the award tonight. He requested and he asked for documentation. He read it. And unlike so many others who claimed concern but remained silent, who didn't want to rock the boat, Jason sprung to action. He immediately reached out to Nikki Haley. We went to see Nikki Haley. I'll never forget. He looked up when we were going over. He said, wow, this is going to make my job tough. He informed President Trump of what was going on. And here's what Jason recently said at the United Nations Security Council. He said, quote, "The Palestinian Authority's institutionalization of support for terrorism is unacceptable and must be called out unequivocally by all of us. The time has come for everyone to stop looking the other way." End quote. The time has come for everyone to stop looking the other way. Those words from Jason have the rectitude of a phrase that has animated so many of us for decades, and it's beautiful being here with the Wiesel family. Never again. Never again. And because of the efforts of Jason and other righteous individuals, the Taylor Force Act passed Congress March 23rd, 2018, limiting U.S. aid to the Palestinian Authority until the PA ends its pay-to-slave program. And then Israel, following on the United States lead, passed similar legislation. Jason is an example for all of us because he leapt into action. When he found out about this Palestinian outrage, a lot of people talk, but Jason is a doer, and I hope that all of us can follow his example. My friends, Jason is not only a champion of Jewish values and American values, he's a paragon of human values, and that's why on behalf of the World Values Network, it is my great privilege to present my friend Jason Greenblatt with the 7th Annual Champion of Jewish Values Award.
Thank you so much, Sander, for that very special introduction. It reminds me how much work we have left to do in this administration. 2 years, 6 years, we hope to get it all done. Thank you, Shmuley, for all your support for me, for the Trump administration over these past 2 years. And mostly thank you, first of all, for all of you for being here, but to those who spoke from this podium earlier tonight. Each of you has done so much for the Jewish people, for the state of Israel, the United States of America, for preserving accordion music. I'm very humbled to be standing here and following the footsteps of all of you who lead by example, and of course for values. I'd like to share some thoughts with you about my journey, how I got here, where we have traveled, and where we hope to go. If you asked me 3 years ago whether I would be speaking in front of you tonight, I would have said definitely not. Now, I've been privileged to work for President Trump for over 22 years. I never would have imagined that I'd be invited to speak in front of you as an assistant to the President of the United States, working on, as one high-level diplomat in the Arab world told me, one of the most complex and difficult conflicts in human history. I stand before you as the son of Jewish Hungarian immigrants who escaped the ravages of the Holocaust and communism. My parents were not well educated and they both grew up poor. America has blessed so many of our families, and it has certainly blessed mine. I also stand before you as the father of 6 amazing children and the husband of an incredible wife. Each of them deserves to be standing here on stage with me to receive this award. I cannot do my job without you. To my dear Naomi When I took this job, we realized that we would have to live apart other than on Shabbat and Sunday, with me in Washington, D.C. and traveling throughout the Middle East, and you remaining in New Jersey. But we also knew that this was not just an opportunity or an obligation. It was, in fact, required for me to do this. How many people in the world get to help the President of the United States work on this elusive peace agreement between the Israelis and the Palestinians? To work on the relationship between Israel and its Arab neighbors? And to work on supporting the U.S. relationship with Israel, one of our strongest allies, a country whose values mirror the United States, and whose bond with the United States, as described by President Trump, is woven together in the hearts of our people. So to my dear family I say, I am deeply grateful that you have allowed me to work on this noble mission. Each day I drive through the White House gates with excitement and awe, knowing that I am privileged to serve and give back to my country in many meaningful ways. My job is inspirational, exciting, frustrating, uplifting, tragic, and amazing each and every day. When we started our efforts, we were faced with the question of how to build on the efforts that came before us. The task was clearly one of great difficulty. The people themselves had not solved it in 70 years. Many well-meaning, very talented teams had attempted to mediate or offer us solutions in the past. We studied what had been attempted, but more so, we studied why these attempts had not succeeded. The talking points had evolved very little throughout the years, even though clearly 1948 did not look like 1990 or 2006, and certainly not like 2019. Both societies, the region, and the world have changed a great deal. We were also determined to speak the truth because we firmly believe that peace can only be built on truth. That is why President Trump and the Trump administration believe we need to speak more clearly about the issues, such as Taylor Force Center, even if speaking about these issues makes people uncomfortable. We believe that without a solid foundation built on truth, it will be hard for peace to be achieved. That is why President Trump has been clear about recognizing Israel's absolute right to defend itself in the face of terror and aggression, including most recently from the attacks emanating from Gaza. That is why President Trump recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and moved our embassy there. And that is why just this week, President Trump signed a proclamation recognizing Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights. President Trump's decision about the Golan was necessary to safeguard Israel's security, and no peace agreement can be achieved without fully taking into account Israel's security. That is the simple truth. Over the past 2 years, we looked at the areas of disagreement and have laid out our vision in a fairly detailed manner. We have written a vision for peace comprised of many pages, enough for each Israeli and Palestinian to read and imagine what peace could look like, and what their lives could be like if we succeed. That is our hope, that when we release our vision, parents will sit at their kitchen tables and read it together with their children. Families will get together and talk about it, and friends and neighbors will discuss it at length in cafes and while going about their daily lives. We hope for honest, realistic, soul-searching dialogue among those affected by the conflict. We hope that everyone affected by the conflict will ask themselves the question, will our lives be better off with this vision, and are the compromises to get this done worth it? Israelis, Palestinians, and their neighbors deserve so much more than they have now. Two peoples bound by tradition and a deep love of overlapping holy sites, but all held back by conflict. Conflict that robs young and old of opportunity and security. Conflict that has now plagued generations. We believe we have constructed a vision where both sides gain much more than they give. Of course, we are clear-eyed about the very significant challenges of reaching a comprehensive agreement. Anyone who understands even the most basic aspects of this conflict knows that within both societies there is deep division over what is and what is not acceptable. One thing that is not acceptable to the Trump administration is to compromise Israel's security in any manner whatsoever. But despite the many challenges, the shifting dynamics in the Middle East highlight the new reality that American allies in the region face. The new ties being forged can serve as a model for future collaboration and lead to closer regional cooperation and, we hope, eventually peace. We know that only the parties themselves who live there, work there, dream there, and worship there can decide how best to solve this conflict, if it is solvable. We hope that everyone considers not only the heartbreaking losses through the years, but the overwhelming opportunity and hope for the future that peace could bring. There have been too many lives lost, too many futures ruined, and too many dreams ended. When President Trump took his first overseas trip, he went to Saudi Arabia, Israel, and Vatican City. While there, he began to lay out his vision. He charted our course. In Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, he said, "Our vision is one of peace, security, and prosperity in this region and the world." And he reminded everyone that for many centuries, the Middle East had been home to Christians, Muslims, and Jews living side by side. President Trump called on everyone to imagine what tomorrow could bring, when parents would no longer worry for their children, families would no longer mourn for their loved ones, and the faithful could finally worship without fear. In Jerusalem, Israel, President Trump recognized that the ties of the Jewish people to the Holy Land are ancient and eternal, dating back thousands of years. And he proclaimed that a hopeful future for children in the Middle East requires the world to fully recognize the vital role of the State of Israel. On that first trip, President Trump shared his great dream of achieving peace in the region. My colleagues on the peace team, Jared Kushner, Ambassador David Friedman, and I, together with our colleagues, Secretary Pompeo, National Security Advisor John Bolton, and our colleagues at the National Security Council and our embassies and missions around the world, have all been affected by President Trump's strength, patience, and passion. While being fully grounded in the complexity of the issues, we imagine the possibilities. We cannot just speak about it, we must hope for it, dream for it, pray for it, and work for it. We try to remember the difference between optimism and skepticism. Over the past 26 months, I've experienced so many inspirational and moving interactions which motivate me to do what I do. For a moment, I want to share a brief story with you. One of the hardest parts of my job is to pay shiva calls or visits to mourners when a family member is murdered by a terrorist if I am in the area at the time of the attack. One day, I took my triplets, who were studying in Israel that day, to an Israeli Arab mourning tent. They were mourning the murder of their son Yusuf, who was killed by a Palestinian terrorist. 2 Jewish Israelis were killed in the same terror attack. When we entered the mourning tent, Yusuf's father hugged my son Noah, kissed him, and said, "You are like my son." We then spent a half an hour together where he shared stories about Yusuf, described his affection for the State of Israel, and ended by wishing us a Shana Tova. I have experienced so many stories like this over the past 2 years. We recognize that there are millions of human emotions, faces, and experiences behind many aspects of this conflict. Israelis and Palestinians, young and old, secular and religious, Muslim, Christian, and Jewish, all have stories to share. Stories that weave together an extremely complicated reality that we cannot ignore. Ladies and gentlemen, on Shabbat, on Saturday, the Jewish day of rest, it is customary in Jewish synagogues throughout the world to say a prayer for the welfare of the State of Israel. In that prayer, we beseech God to spread the tabernacle of peace over Israel. The Trump administration is dedicated to working to see if we can spread the tabernacle of peace between Israel and the Palestinians, and over Israel and the region around them. This is what drives me. This is what drives us. Now I hope you all understand what we dream of and what we are working toward. Thank you so very much.